Ready? All right, let's begin. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We are here to tell you about bills. First of all, I'm J.P. Pomnikowski, Montana State Senator for District 33, Bozeman and Gallatin County. And I'm also the Senate Democratic Minority Whip. We are here to tell you about bills that celebrate and advance and protect the voting rights of all Montanans, that keep our elections free and fair and accessible, and that encourage more people to participate in our government of and by and for ourselves. Voting is one of the most fundamental tenets of our democracy. The results of recent elections show just how important voting is. And in Montana, we know that our votes matter. Many of us have won or lost by just a handful of votes. If there's any doubt in your mind, if you are a Montanan and your vote matters, be assured it matters. I won my first election by 47 votes. And people are realizing their power at the ballot box with more and more people participating and exercising their right to vote. We're working hard to make sure that everyone can more easily register to vote and cast a ballot, know who's trying to influence their vote, and know who is contributing to campaigns. Our elections are how our citizens choose the people who represent them, some of whom you see here today. Voters decide on ballot initiatives that become laws that apply to everyone in the state. So for fair elections and for voter access and for campaign transparency, Democrats are bringing great bills this session. I'll start by telling you about my excellent bill. It's Senate Bill 180 to remove the penalty for ballot selfies or for showing a marked ballot to another person. You may not know it, and you may all actually have been guilty of this yourself, and I use the word guilty because there are penalties involved. In Montana, it's illegal to show your marked ballot to another person. The penalties are misdemeanor penalties, and this bill would remove the penalty to do that. Now, this law is not enforced. No county attorney is going through social media and finding someone's post about a darkened oval and prosecuting. So there's no reason not to pull this off the books. People post pictures on social media as an expression of their support for a candidate or a measure. This statute is contrary to how people both vote and show their support for candidates. The statute was originally put into place to stop voter intimidation, where you might have someone insisting that a voter support a certain candidate and then maybe standing by the door at the polling place and insisting that the voter hold up that ballot and show that they had indeed voted a certain way. Voter intimidation is still a crime. This bill does not change the penalties for voter intimidation. But now, voting takes place for 30 days before an election with mail ballots. It takes place not just in one polling location on one election day. The way our law is written right now, people sitting at the kitchen table with their mail ballots and discussing how they might vote are breaking the law. And I don't know about your Facebook feed in the month of October, but mine was filled with pictures of people holding up their ballots, proudly expressing that they had voted, or taking pictures of the darkened oval on a ballot as an expression of their support for a candidate, much like they express their support by posting a yard sign or a bumper sticker or wearing a t-shirt. Ballot selfies shouldn't be illegal in Montana. Voters are proud of voting. We want them to be proud of voting, and we want that to inspire more people to vote. Okay, so it's time to hear about other good bills, starting with Representative Bachmeier.
Thank you, Senator Pomnikowski. We're all really excited for your bill. My name is Representative Jacob Bachmeier. I represent the City of Havre in House District 28. I also serve as the Vice Chair of the House State Administration Committee. Today I had the pleasure of introducing two bills to help engage young people in democracy. We had our hearings today in the House State Administration Committee. I think the hearings went very well. The first bill is House Bill 508, and that is an act revising laws related to voter registrations for people who are 16 and 17 years old. Just for a very brief history, many of you know my story. I was elected to the state legislature at 18 years old, but my story starts before then. When I was 15 years old, I was working in a grocery store. I was taking groceries out for people, and one day I had the opportunity to take the groceries out for a state senator named Greg Jurgensen. As we were walking out to his car, I got to talking to him about his story and asking about his experiences in politics, and he decided to engage me in the process, which I'm very thankful for. I had the opportunity to help him raise money, to work on finance reports, to knock doors, to make phone calls, and eventually I went on to become the vice chair of the Hill County Democratic Party at 17 years old. Obviously, young people are very eager to get involved in the political process, and we need to continue to engage them in the political process. So one bill that I'm bringing is to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to pre-register to vote. Currently in Montana, you can register to vote at 17 years of age, as long as you'll be 18 by the next election. This would just create a third column of people who are registered to vote, will be registered to vote, but they can't vote until they're 18 years of age. Currently, there are 13 states and territories that allow for this. That's Alaska, California, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Iowa, Maryland, Missouri, North Carolina, Oregon, Rhode Island, Texas, the Territory of Puerto Rico, and the District of Columbia. It's really important to talk about civic engagement. Pre-registration policies have the ability to increase the electoral participation of youth in democracy. What some of the studies have shown in these states and territories that have allowed for pre-registration is that when people pre-register to vote, they're much more likely to continue to turn out to vote for the rest of their lives. Young people are tired of being left out of the conversation, and even if they cannot vote, they should be able to pre-register to vote to encourage them to participate in democracy. My next bill is House Bill 510. This is a bill that will seem familiar because it's come to the legislature for several sessions in a row now. Representative Kathy Swanson carried the bill last session, and it allows people to become youth election judges. And it did pass the House last session. This time we'll hopefully get it through the Senate and onto the governor's desk. Basically what it says is if you're 16 or 17 years old, you can help county clerk and recorders by being an election judge. Like I said with my story, I helped candidates raise money, I helped with finance reports, I helped knock doors. I was very involved in the process. I even got elected to be the vice chair of a central committee at 17 years old, yet it seems really silly to me that these 16 and 17-year-olds, that they cannot check someone's ID, that they cannot make sure that someone's signed into the book at a polling location, and that they cannot help people as an election judge. It's also important to note that we are only one of 4 states that currently do not allow 16 and 17-year-olds to be youth election judges. My bill would make sure that you have to be screened by parents, school officials, principals, and that you would be trained and monitored by veteran election judges. And also my bill clarifies that you cannot have more than one youth election judge to every one election judge who is old enough to vote. So with that, I will turn it over to Bryce Bennett. I appreciate his mentorship last session, and I'm excited to hear about his legislation.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Bryce Bennett. I have the honor of serving the people of Senate District 50, which includes Central and Southern Missoula. The reason I'm in this building and the reason that I got involved in politics for the first time was because of a deep passion that I have for strengthening our democracy and making sure that everyone has the right to vote. It's the reason that I've brought bills forward in this session, and it's the reason I'm excited to be here with so many of my wonderful colleagues in the legislature talking about empowering voters and strengthening our democracy. So this session, I'm proud to bring a number of voting bills, but the one that I want to talk with you about today is Senate Bill 148, which will make voting more accessible for people in the rural parts of our state. Montana allows voters to go into their county election office and get a ballot to vote 30 days before Election Day. Most people take the ballot they receive, go into one of the voting booths or a nearby desk, and fill out their ballot. They fill it out right away and make sure that it's cast to ensure that their voice is heard. It's a convenient opportunity to get voting out of the way early for people with a busy schedule, and we know that most Montanans do have a busy schedule these days. But some people choose to take their ballot with them so that they can do a little bit more research about the candidates or take some time to really dig into their ballot a little bit later. And that's the kind of democracy that we're proud of. But for those people, unfortunately, current law requires that anyone who takes their ballot with them may only return it to the county elections office. So for example, folks that live in my county back in Missoula, this means that a voter in Seeley Lake who might pick up a ballot on a trip down to Missoula and holds on to it until Election Day would have to return that ballot to the county elections office in Missoula. That's 60 miles just to return a completed ballot. This poses real difficulties for folks in the rural part of our state who live far away from their county seat. That's why I brought this bill forward. Under this bill, these voters would be able to return their ballot to any polling location in the county they've received it on Election Day. This bill will make early voting more accessible, convenient, especially for those voters in the rural parts of our state, because no Montanan in any corner of our state should ever struggle to participate in our democracy. So I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today, and I'm excited to introduce our next speaker, who's doing some important revolutionary things that will help move our state forward electronically for our voters, Representative Tom Winter from Missoula.
Thanks, Senator Bennett. So I'm Tom Winter from Missoula. In this day and age, nearly everything we do and can be done is online. So we apply for credit cards, we file our taxes, we renew our car registration over the internet in this state. And so we constantly utilize the ability to verify our identities in a way that's secure and reliable. And so much of our economy is based on this concept. But for some reason, voter registration in Montana is an exception to this rule. So currently, registering to vote in our state requires voters to go through the process of filling out a paper form or application and then getting it to their local elections office. So, for instance, for a single mother working 2 jobs, registering to vote, not voting, but just registering to vote, means finding the time to go down to the county elections office during their 9-to-5 job, despite also needing to, say, pick up their children from school, go grocery shopping, work the multiple jobs they have in this challenging economy for hardworking Montanans. So you can have another example for the young first-time voter who might have chosen to go to college out of state, but whose home is still in Montana. Their registering to vote means printing out the right application and mailing it to the right elections office while juggling classes, work, extracurriculars. It just doesn't have to be this difficult. So one of the things that occurs to me is that our democracy functions best when voting is encouraged and when as many people are participating as possible. Voices they need to be heard. So that's why I've introduced House Bill 557, which would allow for online voter registration in our state. It would verify identity through a secure signature transfer through the Department of Justice or our participating tribal entities. This bill does not make voter registration an exclusively online system. You can still register with that paper application if that's what works best for you. And I've heard from constituents that is something that works best for them, and also that this new system would work for them as well. So the concern is that it would take huge strides toward making voter registration more accessible to the Montanans who are so busy trying to care for their families, pay the bills, and make it to work on time that voter registration often just gets pushed to the bottom of their to-do lists. These are the people who deserve a voice the most. And all Montanans, however, deserve a voice as well. It's just really the most important function of the democracy that happens here in this building. So I feel this is a change it's long overdue. As a freshman, I can't believe this hasn't been enacted yet, and it just concerns me. So this would make a big live in the difference of Montanans and my constituents, and I'll be working hard to get this bill across the finish line. And as a final note, I think it's important to say that we've been working on this for years, and at this point, technology has actually leapfrogged our ability to do this. We can do this now with the technology available in the Secretary of State's office and the Department of Justice. The only impediment is the will of the people in this building to get this done, and that's why it needs to be done this session. So thank you all for coming. We're now available to take any questions if you have from the press.
Any questions for any of us? Wow, we are that self-explanatory. Nice. Thank you so much for coming. If there are any follow-ups, we're easy to find. We don't ever leave the Capitol. Thank you all. Thanks very much.
Thank you.